but
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome again to the Literary Hour. My name is Jackie Sayegh, and of course, I am joined by my professor, Professor K. Moses Nagbe. Hi, Prof. We're here again.
Hello, Jackie. Another Friday.
Another Friday, Prof.
And another chatting hour.
Yep. Yes. So today we're going to talk about books. And not just books, but literary works that have impacted our lives, right? So if you've ever read a book that you couldn't put down, if you've ever read a book that you keep referring to over and over again, if you've ever read a book and given it to a friend and said, just read this, just read it, today is the day we're going to discuss those books. What books impacted your life? Did it change for the better? Did you grow from reading it? And those are the things we'll talk about. We'll talk about some of the books that you should read, some of the books that you've read, and then Prof and I will share our books, some of our books. Our list is very long. We have too many books that we'll talk about, but we're going to share some. So join us again as we talk about books and the impact some of the books have had on us. So, Prof?
Yeah, you said it. You said it all. The thing about books is that they are like just diving into the experiences of individuals, and the more profound the experiences, the better other individuals' lives become. So that is a very useful thing to talk about this evening. We are ready.
Yeah. So when we're talking about books that have change our lives, we're not going to be talking about a book on yoga or a book on uh, 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 um, 10 things to know. No, we're
Yeah.
going to talk
Yeah.
about literary works. We
Yes.
want to talk about books that the author made a conscious effort when
Mhm.
writing the book to say, for my readers who are going to
Mhm.
read this book,
Yeah.
I want them to take something with them when they read this book. You know, I always say that when you're reading a book, you always come out a different person.
Mhm.
It's like either you want to meet the author,
Mhm.
you want to meet the character.
Mhm.
I always say, oh, I didn't know this person felt this way. I feel this way too. You know,
Yeah.
you kind of bond with the character or with the
Yeah.
author,
Mhm.
you know, and then some of the experiences that the character goes through mirror your experiences, you know, or
Yeah.
some of your experiences. So then you begin to grow. I think literature is a vessel through which you grow.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, you know, and if you don't grow after reading a book, that book was not for you, or you didn't
Mhm.
read it right. So go back
Yeah.
and read it again.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Prof, let's get into it. Um,
Yeah.
I guess I would say that we will discuss the impact of books first. So, what is a book supposed to do? You
Yeah.
know, yeah, what is it supposed to do? What is a literary work besides educating? What role should it play?
See, you started out the one or two things that drive the impact, just as you pointed out earlier. If it is not the experiences that they, for instance, if it is a novel, if it is not the experiences that the characters go through and almost immediately provides the link to the reader, then it is the language. You know, many a time there are certain phrases, certain words that they that are found in the book. Either the characters speak them or through editorializing, the phrases and the words sometimes become a part of your speaking stock or your writing stock.
Yes,
So if it is not the language, it is the experiences. If it is not the experiences, then it is the thought processing, which is of course part of the experiences as well. You know, what someone is thinking about. Um, Before we get into much of that, I often uh, I often almost will explode into laughter when someone was talking about a love story and something happened and it kind of reminded me of years gone by, and I would say, "Oh my God!" In fact, that connectivity is that which can widen the audience. You read a book by a European, if it is a love story and something one lover speaks to the other and say, "Oh, so these guys," even in the fictional form, you say, "Oh, so that's how human beings can think," because you have to say human beings. Here
yes,
is here is a book on a different planet. I mean, on a different continent, and you on a different continent, and you find that that is all the reason why for me at an early age, I got to know that whether you are white or black and what have you, human beings are the same. That is why from an early age, I never ever thought a white man was better than a black man was better than, because the same physiological thinking, the same physiological experiences, the same psychological experiences, most of the time match very well. And that is why, I will always say that to a large extent, I'm confident in my own skin. And if you've read a whole lot and you know the basic temperament of people, the basic emotive ecology of people, you will what? You will be just convinced that I am what I am. I'm a human being, and nobody can put me down so easily, and I accept it.
Yeah, and another thing is that sometimes you read a book and you're right, you take phrases with you, or you read just a piece of writing, like a lot of people now they would like to quote Martin Luther King, and they would say
Yes.
the fierce urgency of time,
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
or
Hmm. Hmm.
Dorothy Cathy, if your back's not bent,
Yes.
but those are of the higher calling,
Yeah.
so but if you are reading a book, I think that the most successful or the most impactful books are the ones that appeal to the emotions.
Hmm.
I think that sometimes you think you're the only person who have felt
Yes.
this. You think you invented love.
Hmm.
Or you think that you're isolated, and you're an exile, and
Yeah.
nobody else knows it.
Hmm.
And then you read a book, and
Yeah.
you say, oh my God,
Yes.
this person,
Yeah.
these people, or this author knows what I'm going through.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So
Your
yeah,
head explodes.
your head explodes. Your head explodes. Yeah. So when you talk about books that teach, that strengthen character or things like that,
Mm.
what do you think about the fact that our young people, I always bring it back to education,
Yeah.
but do you think that a society
Hmm.
that does not encourage their young people
Hmm.
is a successful society, or will be a utopia?
Hmm.
Do you think that it has a future if its kids cannot appreciate
Hmm.
works of art, literary art?
Then it's going to be a problem, Jackie. In the age of literacy and all that, uh, books drive national conversations.
Yeah.
You know, to have an avalanche of reading materials and to encourage the utility of those reading materials will always provide something that is, I would say, almost mysterious, because actually, when you drink from a lot of experiences, both uh, from people of one's generation or generations before, it is like, for instance, finding out this particular thing is happening in our society. Is it the first time it is happening? If it happened years back, why did it happen? What did people do? What can we ourselves do? A Christian phrase or a statement that I always play with, because I like it, is, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. When you see certain things, certain themes that are recurrent, when you read about things that are recurrent, sometimes those things that reoccurred, there is some sting that is taken from that when you understand why they are happening, and why over time these things have not been put right. So it's a variety of things. It's a variety of things. Reading, uh, reading materials, they drive national or even global conversation about humanity. That's at
Yeah.
the heart of it all.
Yeah. So we know that a nation that doesn't um, elevate literature or
Hmm.
elevate its writers,
Yeah.
and doesn't nurture
Yes.
this
That's
love
the
of
word.
literary
Hmm.
arts. Yeah, nurture, and
Yes.
that the people in the country cannot really appreciate
Yes.
know what's happening in the country. They can't appreciate
yeah,
things that will drive the country forward, because
yeah,
you must be able to refer, as you said, to the
yeah.
things back.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think in order to not discuss it so much in the abstract, why don't we just start now with books? So, Prof,
Yeah, go.
name
When,
one.
when, yes.
Okay, okay,
First,
we wait. Mhm.
yeah, for me, like many literate homes, I, my father, I was swimming through the ocean of books when at a very early age. And besides the local teachers, I had Peace Corps, American Peace Corps volunteers, who would just, whenever you went to uh, any of their homes, they made sure to give you a book to read, and then they will give little prizes even in school. So that's for me. That's where my own interest in reading began. And then as I grew, I wanted to be a part of writing too. You know, and those things helped me out. Um, but at a point, I thought writers were always dead.
Yes.
I thought writers were always dead. It took me even to the University of Liberia when I met my first living author, my former professor, R.H. Brown, Dr. R.H. Brown, peace be to his ashes. When the morning I saw R.H. Brown, he had done After Long Silence and Other Liberian Short Stories.
Yes.
Yes. And then I was in English 202, which is the literature part of sophomore English. And then the Professor Kona Kasu, we were doing the African, After Long Silence, and he asked, which one of you would like to interview the author of this book? And then, without even thinking about it, I raised my hand and I did the interview with him. He was a pleasant fellow, and he was accommodating. And from that, I told myself I will be a writer. But anyway, that brings me to one or two of my books. When I read Ayekwe Aman's
The
The
beautiful
Beautiful
ones are
Ones
not
Are
yet
Not Yet
born.
Born, yes. When I read Ayekwe Aman's the Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born, the way the guy was picturesque, the way the guy so described, especially the man who happened to be the central character, the man
Yeah,
had
the
no
man.
name. Yes. From the very beginning of the book, this guy was going to work, a poverty-stricken guy, even though, doing work and what have you. The way Ayekwe described that guy, all the slime, you sleeping and saliva oozing out of your mouth and all. Oh my God! Even as rotten as that language was, which is what Chinua Achebe, Nigerians will say Chinua Achebe. Chinua Achebe, yes, he never liked the kind of down to earth rottenness about Ayekwe Ama's language. But that language, Jackie, I'm lying to you, that language so captivated me, and I wanted to write like him. But then later on, much later, when I read Wole Soyinka's Ake, which is
Yes.
about his childhood, when I read that, the gymnastics of language that guy, like he was kind of using language and playing with ideas and all that in that. In fact, that is why some people do not even like to read Wole Soyinka. But I fell in love with the language. So I'll start with those two books. Ayekwe Ama's The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born, and Ake Wole Soyinka's book about his childhood.
Yeah, I think it's also important that you. I think one of the success of writing more is because when you're reading, I mean, emotions are the same as you say all over the world.
Yeah.
But Baltimore struck a chord in Liberians because he spoke in our language.
Yeah.
You know, it was not no big language. It was market women, Liberian market women. There's something and
yes.
you get to say, oh, you know, he knows what we're going.
Yes.
So, but for me, Things Fall Apart was an impactful book for me. And I know everybody, of all, because like you say, at the university, I mean, well, I think it was high school, we've been reading all European novels.
Yes.
European, you know, and all of a sudden, I think it was 11th grade, and they said we should get this thing called Africa Speaks. Remember, there was that little book, Africa Speaks, and it had these little short stories in it from Africa.
Yeah.
But then there was a school that was going to do Things Fall Apart, and my father brought some in his store, and I took Things Fall Apart and I started to read it, and I read it in like maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. I couldn't put it down.
Yes.
You know, because everybody in that book, there were people flawed, but you could love them.
Yes.
You know, it was I forgot the guy's name, the one who, remember the guy who went to go sit down and they said this meeting is for men.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you know, or even Okonkwo. Okonkwo was somebody I thought was so conflicted. You know, he did not mean to break the week or the month of peace or whatever. You know, it's, I mean, when I think for me the most shocking part was the death of Ikemefuna.
Yeah.
I could not believe that a society would exact this kind of punishment. But this book, These Things Fall Apart, you know, to me was a monumental book in my life. Because remember, I didn't know about Guyana Pau. I didn't know about Love in Ebony. And I realized that, oh, Africans are writing.
Yes.
You know, and they are writing good books. You know, so for me, Things Fall Apart was my all-time favorite. I mean, it was, and the simplicity of the words. You know, he didn't go into long description like Wole Soyinka. When you're reading Wole Soyinka, you're like, oh my God. So you have to put so much prose in your Chinua Achebe would say, instead of describing, he would just put a proverb and you would know exactly
in there.
what's happened. You know, a frog does not run in the daytime for nothing. And you know something's happening, you know? So yeah, I think for me, Things Fall Apart impacted my life a good deal. Yes.
No, actually, there's no doubt about Chinua Achebe's book, Things Fall Apart.
Yes.
That's where they were classic comes in the picture. Classic happens to be books that are intergenerational and speak to multiple audiences and what have you. So Things Fall Apart. In fact, we were talking about Ikemefuna. This is where you know about the communalism of the African personality and the individualism of the Western personality. For the African, because the group existence is more paramount to human existence.
Yes.
People were not all too moved when they had to sacrifice one individual for the welfare of everybody. Ikemefuna, as you will remember, was brought in because one village or one town had wronged another town.
Yes.
And there had to be that sacrifice that will eventually purify uh, both the existence of those people, those two villages, and of the gods and what have you. Well, we come to this level in our existence in modern times, and we can detest that kind of blood sacrifice, but we can see it as a symbolism of what people have to go through to be able to a kind of mend the rupture in the peace that they had been enjoying, which means then that whenever there are certain uh, ills between societies, between countries, there's got to be that strenuous effort made to ensure that peace returns to the society. So that is what you will see in the story of within story of Ikemefuna and the
Yeah.
people of Umahia as they strove to make sure that peace returned to both villages and towns.
Okay. So yeah. So that I mean, the impact for me was first. I did not know that
Africans.
Africans could. Well, we had short stories. I didn't know they
Yes,
could write novels.
novels. Yes,
Yeah. And then the story itself. The
yes,
story of love.
yes,
The story of the church coming into the place and
yes,
tearing people apart.
yes,
People who joined the church and other people who didn't. The story
yes,
of family. The
yes,
story of human beings who, as Marquez said, there's always something to love. You
yes,
know, I came out very conflicted about the book because I was used to the hero win at the end.
yeah,
So that's it. And this was a completely different book. So
yeah,
yeah, it was very impactful in my life. Yeah, and on I mean, to this day, I'm very happy that the first book that Cornell chose for their freshman reading, every freshman at Cornell
mhm.
had to read Things Fall Apart.
Wow,
And then they invited Chinua Achebe from Brown. He came, he
yeah,
spoke, and then we had these little small groups where we would discuss the
mhm.
book. So I was very happy that they chose Things Fall Apart as the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
freshman reading book.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow,
And viewers, please list your books. If you have books that you think we should um, we should talk about,
mhm.
list your favorite book.
Yeah,
You know, preferably African, but it doesn't have to be. Blaman Doe and Conan Doe, that book did something to my early childhood life. It's unbelievable.
okay. Who wrote
Well,
it?
yeah, Seku, could you let us know who wrote that book? We would like to know. Okay, so Prof, as we go on now,
Mhm.
and also, do you think? Well, I'm sure, but throw some light on the fact that when you read a book, let's say you read Things Fall Apart, right? Maybe 10 years ago,
Mhm.
and then you come back and you read it today.
Mhm.
You've changed.
Yeah.
Has the book changed?
Well, it's like talking about the general growing process. Uh, when you are growing, you see, assuming that you have the opportunity to go back to the place of your childhood.
Yes.
When you are growing up, you saw certain buildings and they seem towering. And then when you go back, they're like they're like other small boxes, like models or what have you, and you are saying, this house used to be so huge. Or you see an individual and the stature of the person was so impressive, the physique of the person was so impressive, and you see that person the next time around, you have grown and everything. And so, in other words, that is again uh, all part of cognitive development and all that kind of a thing. Uh, you get a book, and at your general level, that brings in another thing. Gulliver's Travel to Lilliput. I don't, Gulliver's Travel to Lilliput.
Okay.
And when I read that book, do you know that I read that that children reader? I read it. Do you know that I was nurturing the dream and everything that one day I will go to visit Lilliput? Gulliver's Travel to Lilliput. I wanted to go to visit Lilliput. When I grow up, I want to go to visit Lilliput to see those midgets of people around and what have you. But the the book remains the same, yet the mind that comes to that book is uh, a mature mind, and therefore the layers of understanding become multiple and even profound, so that even if you read a collection of folk tales and you understood those folk tales in a simplistic way, when you come the next time around, it is a different ball game. So books remain the same, but the minds that come
Yes.
are often more informed and all that.
Oh, Edwin Bolu Bestman say one of my favorite authors, Dr. K. Moses Nagbe. Yeah,
Oh,
what mine
I'm
too.
honored. I don't know which one is that, but I'm honored, Erwin.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, so yeah, people changed Liberia, Dawn of a Nation and Evolution of its Military. The
Uh,
EFL by Emmanuel Abalo. Oh, thank
uh,
you, Emmanuel. Get a copy, guys. Yeah.
uh,
So we're talking about literary uh, um canon now. So I mean books. So we're talking about work of art that we
yeah.
call
Mhm.
books that have impacted our lives.
Yeah.
So, Prof,
Yeah.
the second book. So you've talked about two books. You talked about Ayekwe Aman's the Beautiful
The
Ones Are
beautiful
Not
ones
Yet
are not
Born,
yet, and
and
then
you
Ake.
Ake by Boleso Inca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's there's another one, and of course this one was uh, about writing, and it dovetail with what we are talking about here. And I came across this book way out in graduate school, and that book has not left my shelf. Uh, it is by one William Zenzer. It's called On Writing Well.
On Writing Well.
Well, On Writing Well. Uh, why I want to bring this book in is that it responded to the need about generating ideas. You read that book, and the writer uses language in such a way that the next minute you want to pick up a pen and begin to write.
Hmm.
The spoken or unspoken contract between the reader, the writer, and the reader is his focus. He says that whenever you are writing, it is like you are inviting someone to accompany you.
Yes.
Whenever you are writing, it's like you are inviting someone to accompany you. And the clearer you lay out the foundational type of the joining, the better it is for that person to walk with you. And in walking with you, you've got to play in a few things, one of which is being able to, one, every now and then at some corner when the reader least expects, you throw in something to make him or her laugh, or to throw in a little historical thing if that is going to make a difference, or sometimes a little bit of psychology. In other words, it's like the chef who has a platter. It's like the chef who has a platter of so many good things to eat, so that you can even extend it to being in a banquet hall that is filled with an array of what, of food types from Asia, from Europe, from Africa, and you have all those things lined out. In other words, if you are someone who can create an environment in the literature, I mean in the book that will make this person refuse to put the book down, then you have achieved a whole lot. So William Zenza's book, which is on writing well, is one of my few all-time favorites.
Yeah. Probably, I mean that's true. And then also when the author is writing, the other Edwin say, I love this man. I'm honored to see him. I've read many of his books during my childhood.
Oh,
I'm a poet and author too, sir. You did inspire me. Oh, we know you, Edwin. I've read a lot of your poetry on Facebook. So maybe one day you
okay,
can join us here and
yeah,
talk to us about your poetry. I mean, you write very
yeah,
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
good.
so so this is an invitation, Edwin.
Yeah, keep on writing. Mhm.
Yeah. Prof, the thing is that when the author is writing, like when you've read a book and you say to your friend, "Oh, why don't you read this book?"
Yeah.
But like you said, the experiences are different. So the
Hmm.
person comes out reading the book a different way.
Yeah.
And have you seen that sometimes you want them to see what you saw in the book,
Hmm.
and you say, no, 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 look at it this way, and they say,
Hmm.
no, I see
Hmm.
it this way, because
Yeah.
varied experiences
Yes. No.
make varied
Hmm.
readings of the
Hmm.
book.
It's
So yeah.
yes, yes, Jackie. But the thing about it is again, it comes back to when we're talking about poetry, right?
Yes.
And I said that there are multiple layers that we bring to a particular piece of work, but yet at the beginning, the primary, we all should. But the thing about, saying no, I want you to no, it's a thing about even children when they are growing up, when they are 2 or even 3 years old, you want them to hold a toy a special way, but they want to hold it their own way.
Yes.
The kind of independence begin to develop in that child and what have you. So the thing about reading is to at some point provide a free will and listen to how this individual has understood. You know, again, after the first layer is off, listen to the person and let this person share his or her own input. Sometimes, if it is, of course, if it is off tangent, if like I say, if you cannot see a cat in a book, but you see a tiger in a book, or you see a rhinoceros in a book, then that's a different thing. Otherwise than that, what does this book mean to you? You've read it, you've understood it. Yes, a man was coming from this town and went to the other town and then went to the other town and did this and did that. Fine. So having understood that we are talking about a man or a woman who travel and what have you, what from your own experiences, what does the book mean to you? And one would be very much surprised to hear what the book means to this reader. So it is often important to let that flow, and that brings in another book. Which was done by Northrop Frye. Northrop Frye happened to be a literary critic, F R Y
Is
E.
that one of your books? Is that
No,
one of your favorite books?
yes, Northrop
Okay.
Frye. It's called The Educated Imagination. The educated, again, you want to blend pure literary works and literary studies. You see, literary studies. And so the thing about reading a book and allowing people at some point to be able to draw from their own experiences and add to the understanding of the book becomes very much important. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay. So we have three of your books now. We have Ayekwe Aman's The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born.
Oh, yes,
We have Ake by Wole Soyinka.
yes,
We have On Writing Well, right?
yes, uh-huh.
And now the Educated Imagination. Is
Yes,
that it?
that's right.
Okay. So four
So
books.
4 books for now.
Yes, Anthony, can we have the next slide, please?
Yes.
So I, like I said, one of my all-time favorite is Things Fall Apart. I have another book, but so how does book how books impact our lives? So they entertain, motivate, inspire, move, shapes, changes, teaches, heals, and then you have the instantaneous impact that we
Yeah.
talk about, and then you have the protracted impact
Yes.
that
Uh-huh.
years later
Yes.
you remember.
You are still thinking about that book. Yeah.
Yeah, and so literary works are vessels that connect us in this increasingly virtual and isolated times. Literature
Yes.
connects us to the rest of mankind.
Yes.
And Scott Fitzgerald says
Yes.
that is part of the beauty of all literature. You discover that your longings are universal longings, that you are not lonely and isolated from anyone. You
Yeah.
belong.
Yeah, you belong.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. Yes, so we come to my book now.
Yes,
So the
please.
second book, the second book that impacted me was Zora Neale Hurston. Their eyes were watching God.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I've heard of
I
that book.
think that that book is like my, I don't know, Prof. And the interesting thing is that the book is written in Southern English. You
Yeah.
know,
Yes. Uh-huh.
it's not
Yes.
written in formal English. You know,
Yes.
and
Yes.
Zora Neale Hurston,
Hmm.
she was an anthropologist, I think a
Yes.
cultural anthropologist.
Yes.
But this book, Prof, it's Bildungsroman. Let me put it that way. It's about Jamie, right? And this young lady, Jamie, who goes through life-changing experiences
Yeah.
and comes out stronger than
Hmm.
before. I'm not going to tell you what happened all in the book,
Yeah.
but I love the language. I love the choice of words. I
Yeah.
love reading the book. It is like music reading the book. You know, I
Hmm.
mean, besides the fact that it's very strengthening. You know, it
Hmm.
strengthens you. You know, it gives you inner strength.
Yeah.
But the music, I mean, the book, it's like a lyrical poetry, an
Yeah.
epic poem. I love. So I
Hmm.
wanted to read just one part. It's
Hmm.
just it's I'm gonna read it the way it is. She says, when God had made the man,
Hmm.
he made him out of the stuff that sung all the time and glittered all over. Some angels got jealous and chopped him into millions of pieces, but still he glittered and he hummed.
Wow.
So they beat him down to nothing but sparks. Each little spark had a shine and a song. So they covered each one over with mud, and the lonesomeness in the sparks make them hunt for one another. I mean,
But
just beauty.
the lyricism is very
Yes,
powerful. Yes.
you know, and then she says, uh, she said there are years that ask questions and years that answer. You know,
Hmm.
it is. I mean, Prof. When I read her book, she
Yeah.
says two things everybody got to do for themselves. They got to go to God, and they got to find out living for themselves. You know, and it is like, I think it is poetry. Reading her book,
Yes.
it is
Yes.
like
Yes.
poetry. I love the eyes were watching God. You
The
know,
and her work. In fact, one of the reasons why she is often celebrated is that, of course, every major writer tends to empower the audience, but her works have been very empowering,
yes, yes,
especially to the feminist aspects of society and what have you. Yeah. Yes.
not yet, Anthony, not yet. And then she has this phrase that she always says. Um, she said, "I don't weep for the world, right? I don't weep
Well,
at the
weep
world."
for the
She said,
world.
yeah, she said, "I'm too busy sharpening my oyster knife." You know, I love Zora Neale Hurston, but that's the second book
Yes.
that has really impacted me. And I think
Yes.
the third book, I tend to read a lot of autobiographies.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because I think that, you know, they're and one of the ones that I really like is Conversations with Myself,
Mm-hmm.
Nelson Mandela.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I mean, he what he went through teaches you again
Mhm.
inner strength.
Yes.
It
The
teaches you, yeah,
yes. The thing about and life stories. Oh, how about that? Yes. Life stories help uh, bring society to its sense. Um, Even in America, life stories played a very profound role in the development of this country. Now, why did that happen? To see someone who has grown in stature in society and to read that this person did not just spring up like magic and arrive on the scene,
yes,
to see that this person came up crawling and then standing up and then going through the battles of life. You know, that brings also things fall apart back. When someone says that looking at the mouth of the king of a king, they were talking about
yeah,
looking at the mouth of a king, you will not believe that he sucked at his mother's breast.
yes, yes,
So life stories, they kind of tamp down the almost magical thinking of young people when they see someone and the person is driving a car and all of a sudden they don't even think about how that person got to the point of riding a car, but just a craving for the car, then it becomes a problem.
yeah,
If someone understands that all human beings evolve, then the idea of working hard, looking at or reading about how this person got to that point should be able to inspire us in a meaningful way so that meritocracy, for instance, becomes very much important as opposed to this kind of patronage, and then all of a sudden you land somewhere without looking at how you got to that point. So really, life stories are very much important. You talk about the Ben Franklin's and all that, and then you get to understand the Frederick Douglasses and all that. You get to understand what it means to grow up, what it means to strive very hard, and then get to the point of some level of attainment that people are thinking about and appreciating.
yeah. When you, I mean, like Sidney Poitier, I was reading it, The Measure of a Man,
Yes,
and and Sidney Poitier, I mean, he never wore shoes until he was 10 years old.
yes, yes, yes,
So I think, like Toni Morrison said, within us, there's all we all have stories within us,
yes,
but I think we feel like our struggle is our struggle.
yes.
Nobody else has gone through struggles,
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
and
uh-huh.
then you see that, look, it is not the struggle. The struggle
Yes,
makes you,
yes,
there's strength in your scars.
yes.
So own your scars
Mhm.
and keep going.
Yes.
It is. I mean, when I was reading Sidney Poitier, Measure of a Man,
Mhm.
I mean, he went through stuff,
In fact,
that you wouldn't even imagine.
yeah, talking about there is an aspect of his story which has to do with when he was thinking about acting.
Yeah.
His first experience where he went there was this notice put up, and then he went in. He said he went in and the man gave him a script to read, and he could he could he
Yes.
couldn't read, and the man got frustrated and threw him out.
Yeah.
Yes, and those little stories. And when you see this man now, Sidney Poitier, towering on stage and having done so many things and what have you, you say, wow, this man has really fought for his life and where he's reached now. Oh my God, one will one day want to kind of copy him. In other words, work hard to be able to attain something. So these things do not come by magic.
Yeah.
That is at the heart of it all.
So with the impact now, like books that have impacted our lives,
Yes.
let's think about let's focus it down to Liberia.
Yes.
What is the one book that you read that that if it was not impactful, it was an important book for you?
Yes. Oh, don't get me started.
One
uh,
book, just one,
First,
just one. Okay, just two. Let's choose two. Each
no,
one of us will choose two.
the thing about it is that when I read Guanya Paul, a story of an African princess, when
Yes.
I read that, something warmed my heart. The idea that in 1891, the first novel in English from Africa came from my dear Liberia.
Yes.
You know, I'm not trying to be dramatic about it, but it brought tears to my eyes.
Yes.
1891.
And people
So
say Liberians don't write. I mean, the
yes,
first
yes,
African novel.
you know,
You know,
and so the pioneering nature of
yes.
that book struck a chord.
Prof, this guy was a feminist
Yes,
when there was not a word called
there was
feminism.
nothing of that sort. Yes.
You know, and
Mm,
now I see a lot of people, talking down, making talking down to women, denigrating women,
yeah.
many men, and yet it's a man
Yeah.
who made a heroine,
Hmm.
a heroine that
Yeah.
he gave freedom to.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, this was in the 1890s.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, so that's one. Okay, so that's one book, and
Uh-huh.
and it's significant for you because
The
it's a
pioneering nature
Liberian,
of the
yeah,
book. Yes.
pioneering. So what's
And
your second book?
okay. Uh, and then uh, I was in college when I was in undergrad school when the money doubler,
Ah,
the money doubler, Baltimore's money
fine.
doubler,
Yes,
uh, and to this day, of course, when you talk about black money boys and what have you, that is the culture, So in fact, after he published that book, uh, I don't know whether I was in Mrs. Mark's class, Althea Romeo Mark. Uh, I think yes, I think I was in Althea Romeo Mark's class, or maybe the mind is playing tricks on me. Either that, or it probably must have been Robert H. Brown, because actually it would be Robert H. Brown taught me the African novel. As I said, the mind was playing trick on me. It was Robert H. Brown's class, the African novel. So when the book came out, I mean, it had its own little frenzy. People were talking about it, the money doubler. And then one day in class, who must appear? That was my first time seeing. We're talking about the mid 19s, well, part of early 19s and mid 1970s. And oh my God, and I saw this man walk gracefully into the class, and it was like the eyes were just like falling off our faces and what have you. And he spoke about his book. He spoke about his start in the writing business, and I can never so easily forget the advice he gave that time. He said anybody can write. He said anybody can write. Find something that kind of pricks your heart so much that you want to say something about it. And then he said, what is wrong with you, for instance, after finishing college and you have a book, a life story titled, I've Made It?
yes,
Yes, I
yes.
still remember that. He said,
Yeah.
and then you say, I've made it. In other words, all of you in here, he said, all of you in here have challenges. You are going through challenges. Sometimes you don't eat, you come to school. Sometimes even the bus fare to take you home is not there. If you put all those things together and one day you write the story of your education through college and you say, I've made it, that would be profound. So short of the long is that, the Money Doubler by Tamia Moore is my second to
Okay,
talk
so
about.
let's see the last slide. The last slide is a list of books that we've read that we think
Yes.
you should read, and
Uh-huh.
then books by Liberians that you should read. So
Yeah.
we have Animal Farm. That's another one of my classics. Their
Uh-huh.
eyes were watching God,
Yes.
Beloved, and
Uh-huh.
1984 George Orwell,
Uh-huh.
Markings by
Uh-huh.
Dash Hamago, The
Uh-huh.
Poison Root Bible, The God of
Uh-huh.
Small Things,
Uh-huh.
Arundhati Roy, A
Uh-huh.
Hundred Years of Solitude, Things Fall
Yes.
Apart,
Yes.
Americana,
Uh-huh.
Not Yet Uhuru,
Uh-huh.
Conversations with
Kenya.
Myself, yeah, Death and the King's Horseman, that's
Yes.
Soyinka, The
Yes.
Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born, God's Bits of Woods by
Yes.
Usman Semen,
Uh-huh.
We Need New Names by Non-Violent,
Uh-huh.
Never's Condition by TC, The
Uh-huh.
Joys of Motherhood, A Grain of Wheat and Googie, and The
Yes.
Wretched of the Earth, my
Uh-huh.
favorite also. Okay, and then books by Liberians. Please, this is by no means an exhaustive list. These are
No,
just some of the
no.
books that we
Uh-huh.
put down.
Uh-huh.
Inappropriate Medley, The Road to Romeo,
Uh-huh.
Murder in the Cassava Patch, Love
Uh-huh.
in Ebony, Guina Pao, The Mystic Reformation of Gondolia,
Yeah, are you laughing?
The Ring and the Night, Village Boy by
Uh-huh.
Sakwi Balakba,
Uh-huh.
Praise Songs for My Children by Patricia Jabbe Wesley, Land of My Fathers, Bamba Sharif,
Uh-huh.
Jelimo, The Life and Times of Victoria Elizabeth Jelimo Grimes by Mary Antoinette Brown Sherman, The
Yes.
House at Sugar Beach,
Uh-huh. Yes,
Sadio,
Cooper.
yeah, Sadio, and then Lifted Up, the Victoria Toba story.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on.
Yeah, yeah.
Liberians are writing.
Mm-hmm.
So please don't, when people say, oh, Liberians don't write, tell them you
Mm-hmm.
beg to differ. The
Mm-hmm.
first novel in English was Not Things Fall Apart. It
Yes,
was
yes.
China Pow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes. The, the,
Prof. Yeah.
talking about Victoria Tobo's book, Lifted Up. When I read that book, again, when I read that book, especially the scene in which all along she had been thinking that her son, Abe Tobo, was alive, and the day she heard that Abe Tobo was killed, Jackie, tears streamed down my cheeks. Tears streamed down we are talking about the power of language and the power of a story. The day I read that book, oh, well, I can't even talk about immediately the day after the war, all the filth and all that lady sat in that day, coming to the point where she finally got to know that the promise of the fact that the boy was alive, and only to find out that they killed that lady's son. And she talked about it. The power of language. So it comes back to what we've been saying. You know, taking interest in writing is one thing, but always making sure that you get someone or a team to kind of strengthen your language and what have you becomes very much important. It doesn't take anything from you, especially when you are a beginning writer. Language of a piece of work is powerful, and if you can uh, uh, pay attention to the coordinates of the language and what have you, the phrases, the sentences, and all the kind, and the flow of ideas and all that. If you can find someone to help you, always getting them together, that is so profound.
Yeah, definitely. I thank you, Prof. I thank you for always being ready, always teaching us.
Well, if
I
we are
mean,
teaching each other, stop it.
yeah, we're learning so much from you.
Yeah,
I think for me, a book is impactful when it tells my story.
yeah.
It may not know me, but it
Mhm.
tells my story.
Yes,
It's
yes, yes.
impactful when I read the language or the choice of language, and
Yeah.
I feel filled. I
Yes,
feel
I feel
satisfied.
filled. Say
Yes.
that again. I feel
I feel
filled. Yes,
contented. I feel that this is my story,
yes.
And I always say that writing is private activity for a public audience. I mean,
Yes.
as Prof knows, I've been writing a story about my great grandmother, and
Yes.
the thing is that it's so private for me. My great grandmother was the closest thing to God that
Yes.
I had. This ordinary gribble woman was an extraordinary woman in my life,
Yeah.
and I think the subject matter also makes you makes you write with the sacredness that
Yes.
the subject demands.
Yes.
So yeah, so I think that as we continue on this journey of exploring during the literary hour,
Mhm.
we ask you again to join us. We talk about the self. We talk about the self, and Gible says, "Yes, Jackie, you're right. I do like autobiography too. Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom is a great one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's
This
true,
one,
Sherry.
conversations with myself is also great. Oh, like even listener is a fan of this show. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Who is the publisher of Liberian Listener?
I don't know if they have it here. Yeah. So Nelson Mandela, it was it's just stories about himself. Oh,
Yes.
oh, Edwin says we're changing the narratives, sir. Liberia will rise. We write, 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 and write. We are never retiring until life is gone.
Yes,
Dr.
that's true.
J. Wesley taught me how to never give up on writing, and I've learned
Uh-huh.
from many others. So we'll change the literary scene in Liberia. Oh
Yeah.
no, we should talk. I mean,
Yes.
definitely, he's a strong writer. I've been
Yeah.
reading his
Mhm.
poetry,
Mhm.
and it's really good. I pay Emmanuel Abalo say I pay homage to the Liberian Association of Writers. Prof. K, Moses Nangbe, Prof.
Mhm.
Althea, Romeo Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, Dr. Wingrove, Dwamina, all of
Yeah.
the UL. Thank
Yeah.
you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Dwamina was my
Yeah.
advisor.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we have to keep the show under 1 hour because the show is also broadcasted in Liberia,
Mm-hmm.
and they can only accommodate 1 hour. So we
Yeah.
always have to make it very brief. But
Yeah.
we will continue tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow on Friday. We have been
Mm-hmm.
discussing the self, seeking the self. We've discussed it through African writers, through African poetry, and we will continue to
Mm-hmm.
discuss it. We thank
Yeah.
you very much for joining us. We ask you to join us next week at the
Yeah.
same time on Friday.
Yeah.
Come with questions, come with
Yeah.
comments, and we
Yeah.
will endeavor to answer them. So, Prof, once again, we're going to stay and chat after, but we want to say thank
Yes.
you so much. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for being with us today. I feel like I'm back in LU.
Again, that's all these things that happen. Yeah.
Because I see all your students here say, "Oh, Prof, so they remember you. They remember you." Yes,
It's,
yes,
it's, it's, it's good. I understand. I mean, the very fact that they themselves are growing, that's the thing that is empowering. Yeah, that is
yes, yes,
delightful and it's empowering to know that
yes,
there will be people to take the mantle.
yes. And we should think about having a literary festival in Liberia.
Yes,
I
why
think that
not?
would be
Why
a
not?
great one. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. So thank you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
We hope to see you next week. Be
Yeah.
safe, as we say, mask up, and have
Yes.
a restful and happy weekend.
Yeah.
And remember, we are
Yeah.
all Liberians.
Yes.
Whether you read or you don't like the books, we're all
Yes.
Liberians.
Yes. That's right.
Thank you.
Okay.
We all love you.